Welcome back to the Undaunted Man podcast. I'm Mark Johnson, and this is my partner, Geoff Laughton. Today, we're tackling something a lot of coaches won't touch with a 10-foot pole: why so much personal development work just falls flat for men, and what actually works when you match the method to how someone is wired. We're also going to talk about why single-sex spaces are one of the most powerful tools we have right now. And we're going to pull straight from Stoic philosophy and some of the clearest spiritual principles from across history to show why this stuff matters.
Yeah, Mark, I think we just need to say it straight. Men don't grow by sitting in circle after circle waiting for their feelings to get a gold star. And women, they don't unlock their real strength by getting drilled like soldiers until someone calls their softness a flaw. The best coaching respects the differences. It's not this style's better than that one. It's use the right tool for the person so you can actually see and help implement change that sticks.
Exactly. Masculine-oriented folks, which are mostly men, move fastest when the work is direct, challenging, and holds them fully accountable. Think strict goals, measurable results, and facing yourself in total silence and friction. Feminine-oriented folks, mostly women, move fastest when it's relational, embodied, and all about being truly seen and supported without someone jumping in to fix it. Get it wrong and you just spin your wheels, get frustrated, or quit. Get it right, and you see real jumps in leadership, relationships, purpose, and toughness. This isn't some fancy theory. It shows up in every major spiritual and philosophical tradition that ever built strong people, as well as our own experience, and the research backs it up.
So let's hit the masculine side first, because that's really our wheelhouse here at Undaunted. Men are wired for friction. We need clear standards and real accountability with zero excuses. Think about the Stoics, for example. They didn't fuck around. They practiced what the Latin calls premeditatio malorum, deliberately picturing the worst case scenario so they could train through it without falling apart. They lived by memento mori, remembering you're going to die. So they didn't fuck around wasting time on distractions either. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they all hammered home amor fati, love of fate, which basically means you embrace whatever life throws at you instead of bitching about it. And they trained through voluntary discomfort on purpose. Let me throw that one in. They train in discomfort on purpose so they could build real resilience.
That is exactly it. Those Stoic principles line up perfectly with other traditions that forged strong men. Christian monks lived by Jesus' command to deny yourself and take up your cross daily. The Desert Fathers went into silence and isolation for years because they knew the only way to meet the pure I am at your core was to strip away every distraction. Yogic tapas is that fiery self-discipline. You burn away weakness through intense effort. Buddhist warrior training teaches you to stare straight into impermanence without flinching. Samurai drilled zanshin until they could stay completely present under pressure no matter what. In every case, the teacher was a straight mirror. No fluff, no endless processing. Just, here's the standard, here's where you're falling short, now do the work.
And today, the numbers prove it. Studies on athletic coaching show guys respond way better to technical instruction, structured challenges, and tough accountability. You got programs out there like 75 Hard, multi-day silent retreats where you can't even talk, or brotherhood groups that call out your excuses exactly for what they are. And when you got that kind of setting has way lower dropout rates and huge gains in discipline, leadership, and life satisfaction. There are men's workspaces as well that focus on men's initiation weekends that work because they keep the edge sharp. Without that friction, let's face it, guys, we can drift. Float around in mediocrity without giving it a second thought. Overthinking, distractions, porn, being 60 years old and doing video games for 5 hours a day helps keep you distracted, but the soul stays empty.
Right. Now, flip to the feminine side. Feminine-oriented people are wired for resonance and flow. They need emotional safety and the feeling of being fully received. History shows it over and over. Sufi work used devotional poetry, music, and whirling dervishes to open the heart in ecstatic surrender to the divine. Krishna's bhakti path was all about heart-centered relationship and loving devotion. You give yourself completely to the beloved. Taoist Wu Wei taught you to stop forcing everything and just align with natural flow. Indigenous women's circles shared wisdom through stories and presence. And Christian contemplatives simply rested in the beloved without striving. The guide wasn't barking orders, they were listening and letting the process happen in the body.
And this is where single sex spaces become so crucial, Mark. When you put men together in a room with no women around, the work can go deep into that stoic style challenge and accountability without any of the performance layers that we dudes are prone to going to when we're around women, which just gets in the way. Guys don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or holding back so they don't come across too harsh. They can get called out hard by their brothers who actually have their back. That level of straight talk is almost impossible in mixed settings.
That's spot on. I've seen it in our own cohorts at The Undaunted Man. When it's men only, the breakthroughs happen faster because the container is built for masculine wiring. No one's softening the message to keep the peace. No one's defaulting to endless processing because that's what feels safer in a mixed group. Instead, it's here's the standard, here's where you're falling short, now do the work, and the results speak for themselves. Stronger discipline, clearer purpose, and men who actually lead in their families and businesses and their own lives. Single sex spaces for women work the same way on the other side. In women-only circles, they can drop fully into that relational flow and emotional safety without feeling like they have to match masculine energy or prove how tough they are. They get to be received exactly as they are. That's why those spaces have been around for thousands of years too. Think women's temples and bhakti traditions, Sufi sister gatherings, indigenous grandmother circles. They let the feminine path do exactly what it's designed to do.
Exactly. And, history is full of this. Think about the fact that samurai trained in all-male dojos. Monks lived in single-sex monasteries practicing silence and self-denial. Yogis had ashrams where men did tapas together. Women had their own circles for devotional practice and storytelling. They weren't being exclusionary. And this is really critical. This isn't about exclusion. They were being smart. They knew the work lands deeper when the container matches the wiring. Today, in our opinion, we've lost a lot of that. A lot of modern coaching throws everyone into the same mixed group in hopes for the best. But what usually happens is the style defaults to whatever feels safest for the majority in the room. And that often ends up being more relational and less challenging. So the men get frustrated and check out, and the women feel like they can't fully relax into their own energy.
So that's a great description right now of the huge problem that this one size fits all approach actually is. Corporate wellness, university programs, half of the Instagram coaches for that matter, they're everywhere. They hand out the same generic tools and validation to everybody. The end result? Guys who can talk about emotional intelligence but freeze when real pressure hits. Women who look strong on the outside but feel drained and unseen on the inside. Leadership studies show it clearly. Ignore the orientation and engagement drops and results stall. Match it and you get higher completion rates and change that actually lasts. Some folks say the differences are tiny or just made up by society, but the data doesn't back that up. Sure, there's overlap. Some women crush challenge work and some men love deep relational stuff, but the patterns are consistent enough to guide smart choices. Research on masculine and feminine traits shows you get faster growth when you honor the main wiring first.
And now here's another cool part about single set spaces. They don't just help you grow in your dominant orientation. They actually set you up to integrate the other side later in a healthier way. The man who's been forged in the fire with other men, doing things like stoic voluntary discomfort and Christian self-denial, learns how to offer steady presence without going soft. The woman who's been fully and truly received in her circle, practicing bhakti surrender and wu-wei flow, learns how to set boundaries and act decisively when it counts. This is crucial. That's not erasing the difference. That's finishing the job. And here in Undaunted, we don't ignore feminine wisdom. We just put it in the right place for men. Guys don't need more watered-down feelings workshops. They need the real work in a container that's built specifically for them.
Right. So here's the action step. If you're masculine oriented, pick one coach, one brotherhood, or one program that flat out refuses to let you hide. Preferably a single-sex men's space where the work is designed for you. Commit to it for at least 90 days. Say your commitments out loud every single day in front of men who will hold you to them. Build in real silence until your core awareness drowns out the excuses. Track actual results, discipline, income, relationships, health. The data from men's programs shows this works when you don't half-ass it. If you're feminine oriented, find a guide or a circle. Again, a single-sex woman's space works best that will witness you without rushing to fix or advise. Get into somatic work, cycle awareness, or sisterhood practices that bring you back into your body. Let yourself be truly seen and held until your natural power shows up again. Research on women's programs show that these methods deliver lasting confidence and fulfillment when the space feels safe.
And, look, we're not just making this shit up in our heads. We're pulling all this straight from everything Mark and I have studied in the best spiritual and philosophical traditions. Stoic resilience, Christian self-denial, yogic tapas, Buddhist equanimity, Sufi devotion, Krishna bhakti, Taoist flow, just to name a few. Plus, the clearest modern evidence on what's actually moving the needle. Matching the coaching style to your natural wiring and doing it inside a single-sex container isn't a preference. It's the fastest, most reliable way to get real, lasting results. And why do anything if you're not going for getting real lasting results?
Right. So choose the path that fits how you're built. Commit all the way. You won't just feel better for a few weeks. You'll become living proof that these principles still work in today's world.
And if you're a man ready for the real work in a single-sex brotherhood that's built exactly for what Mark and I have been talking about today, head over to theundauntedman.com right now and see if our next cohort could be the right fit for you.
Thanks for listening. If this hits home, send it to someone you think will benefit from hearing it. We'll catch you next week. Stay undaunted.